Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. A little later, we're going to talk to someone who survived the Chinese government and find out what's different there than here. But first, I want to talk to somebody who's a bit of a Colorado favorite, Don Bendell, who is an author of how many Western books have you written?
A bunch of Westerns, 28 books altogether.
28 books.
Some military thrillers and most Westerns.
Some have compared you to Louis L'Amour. That this is you've got a Western.
I've been very fortunate.
You've been fortunate. Hey, but before I talk about that, I want to talk to you about some of your political work, which I find fascinating. That you do something called Stolen Valor. That is, you out people who claim they have a military record that they might not have. Give me an example first, and of people who do something like that.
A good example of one that I worked on was the mayor of Atlantic City, New Jersey. If you remember on the national news several years ago, he was outed, and they said the mayor had gone AWOL, Bob Levy. They said mayor of Atlantic City is AWOL. And that he was a former Green Beret and served 2 terms in Vietnam. We ran his records and found out he was a switchboard operator in Vietnam. He never went to jump school, never became a paratrooper, never, which you have to do to be a Green Beret. I work with the fakewarriors.org, and which is the largest organization that's exposed more phonies than any other group. And I out fake Green Berets for them. Specifically people that, like that mayor who campaigned and got elected, he had his teenage son make TV commercials bragging about his dad being a Green Beret, being wounded in Vietnam. He ended up with a lengthy prison term. He ended up resigning in disgrace as mayor of Atlantic City, which I told him he would do. And I also told him he would publicly apologize to all the men, past and present, of the U.S. Army Special Forces. He did.
Why is that important to you? What is it that drives you? This is not a job. This is an avocation. This is something that you spend your time doing. What is it that drives you that if people lie about their military record, why do you care? What does it matter to you and people like you?
That's a very good question. I have 2 sons that are Green Berets now, and when they went into the military, they both had successful careers already. And I asked them why they wanted to do it, and they both told me that I had friendships with the guys who served on my A-team in Vietnam in 1968 and 1969 that were as close as brothers. All these guys were like uncles to them growing up, and they said they wanted those kind of friendships. Some of those guys that served with me in Vietnam remain there. Their body is in foreign soil, either in Vietnam or other places where they were fighting in the cause of freedom. And so it's up to people like me to keep their legacy pure and alive. And when somebody steals valor, when they claim that they got the Distinguished Service Cross, or the Medal of Honor, or the Purple Heart, or any kind of valorous medal, and they claim that for themselves when they didn't do it, that is actually worse than stealing money from the person.
Why is that?
Because you're stealing their honor. You're stealing their valor. And I have friends who died in Vietnam who can't protect that legacy of honor that they left with their families. So it's up to guys like me to protect it.
Now, I can understand when applying for a job, people lie on their resume. And when they lie on their resume, they're trying to make themselves stand out. Sure. I understand politicians want to do this as well. I saw something going around on the internet that had all of our former presidents from Ike on in uniform, except, of course, Clinton and Obama. They had Clinton in a high school band uniform.
And Obama, I saw the uniform,
right.
Yeah.
And the thought being that Americans seem to prize politicians who have done service to the country that way. Why do you think they need to lie about it? What is it you think that a politician is gaining by stealing that valor?
Well, as I said, I specifically deal with fake Green Berets. When I earned my Green Beret in 1967, Out of every 100 men who tried, only 3 got a Green Beret. When my sons, within the past decade and a half, earned their Green Berets, same standard. 3 out of every 100 that try get a Green Beret. When you work your butt off like that, and then you have friends lose their lives, and they have an elite status like that, something you're incredibly proud of, then you know, it's incumbent upon those who have gone on, which I have. I'm 68 now, and it's incumbent upon us to protect that legacy that's been passed on. And I'm so proud of my sons and the other young men serving in Special Forces now. They're so much better than I was.
If people want to help out or get more information about that project and see who has faked their valor, is there a website or a place where they can go?
Fakewarrior.org, or they can go to POWnetwork.org. And then for fake Navy SEALs, they can go to Veriseal, Veriseal. This ain't hell, but you can see it from here. That's what you can just Google that. There's a number of websites that out phonies.
Let me switch gears completely. Would have nothing to do with anything.
All right.
29 Western fictional, 28 fictional works. Now, I'm
not all Westerns,
but mostly Westerns.
Most were Westerns.
You know, Strongheart, this was a #1 bestseller on Amazon for Western. I mean, that's huge. That might be becoming the new honor, not the New York Times. And this came out. New York Times is, this came out in about 5 years ago. Was that right, or 10 years ago?
Yeah, well, not quite that long ago, but 2011.
Yeah. Right. And you've now updated it with Bloodfeather. So this is out in there.
Bloodfeather is a sequel, and then I have another sequel which will be released worldwide January 2016. By my publisher, Berkeley Penguin Random House.
Tell me, what is the magic about Westerns? Now, I remember the Michener books, and I remember some. I never really got into the genre, but there is a love of Western fiction with a bit of historical references, drawing the picture. What draws you to that? What draws readers to that?
Well, some people are drawn. I wish more were, and that's one of my goals. I could be making more money. I was doing military thrillers, and my editor was also Tom Clancy's editor for 25 years, and he's been my editor for 25 years. I could make more money doing that, but I want to do Westerns. I grew up in Akron, Ohio, a little boy dreaming about being an Indian or a cowboy when I grew up.
Which one did you want to be?
Well, I wanted to be an Indian, but I'm actually like a strawberry cupcake with vanilla icing because I'm white on the outside and red on the inside, and so. But I'm a cowboy with kind of Indian leanings, and my fiance is half Navajo, so that kind of helps and compensates. But anyway, I believed very strongly in John Wayne's characters and Roy Rogers and Gene Autry.
Why? What is it about? I mean, the John Wayne character is such an iconic character. I mean, you say John Wayne, and it's not an actor. It's a brand. It's a flavor. What is it about that draws you?
Well,
why John Wayne?
One of my proudest possessions was I went on a date with John Wayne's oldest grandchild, his granddaughter Anita LaCava Swift. It was a platonic date. She's married. But anyhow, she gave me this bracelet that says courage on one side and johnwayne.org on the other. And then these bracelets, John Wayne wore one of these bracelets his whole life from the time he made the movie The Green Berets. He was given a Mountain Yard bracelet. I lived with the Mountain Yard tribes people in Vietnam, and to me it was kind of like being a white guy living with an Indian tribe back in the 1800s. They're a separate race from the Vietnamese, and they were the toughest fighters in all of Vietnam. Very primitive people. They wore loincloths. The women were bare-breasted, and they wore little black cotton skirts called atoks, and they primarily ate rats and monkeys and carried bamboo crossbows and spears. and we trained them about animal husbandry, first aid, soap. They had never had soap before. Built churches for them.
What does that have to do with John Wayne? What is
well,
the
John
what is
Wayne
the
made
pull?
John Wayne made the movie The Green Berets, and Green Berets associate closely with the American cowboy, as you saw them back in the 50s and 60s on the Saturday morning matinees and on TV. Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, Rex Allen, Lash LaRue, the Range Rider, you know, Matt Dillon, and so on. And I always wanted to be a cowboy when I grew up. Now I am. I'm a real cowboy with a real horse and a real ranch.
But when you take those characters and you just name them from Gene Autry to John Wayne, what about their character it makes you go there rather than another brand of personality? What is it?
The pioneer spirit. You know, a man's only as good as his word. Same thing with a woman. A woman's only as good as their word. The pioneers that built this country were hardy stock. One of my pet peeves, I've worked on race relations my whole adult life, and I can't stand it that you have what I call poverty pimps that want to keep, for example, our black population down and tell them they're victims of whitey. They are not victims of whitey. They are Americans, and they have every opportunity. We got a black president. We have a black attorney general, or had one. Anybody in America can achieve anything. You just got to have the gumption to get up there and do it. And I'm sick and tired of these idiots that get up there that try to act like they're the saviors of the black race or whatever, saying you're victims and you're being kept down and all that, instead of saying you came from a hardy race of people that survived slavery, survived the wilds of Africa and all that, and you can lift yourself up and accomplish anything you want if you get an education and you work your butt off.
And that's the cowboy spirit?
It is. The cowboy spirit is to be hardy, to take care of yourself. And, you know, I have a Code of the West, and unfortunately I don't have it memorized. I have it on my website. But, you know, I have things like a cowboy is always glad to share his campfire, his grub with you, and his water with you, as long as you don't try to take it from him. And cowboy, everything is black and white except for skin color.
Who's your favorite author?
My favorite author? Probably Louis L'Amour. You know,
why?
Well, Louis L'Amour told simplistic stories. A lot of them were made into movies. A lot of them were John Wayne movies, and Sam Elliott and Tom Selleck movies and so on. And, you know, with a simple moral story, and they had simple morals. And, you know, you don't break your word. You don't steal. You know, you protect your spread. You protect your country.
People want to check out your all your books and see what you've written. Where do they go?
Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, BorderBooks.com, bookstores. My books are sold all over the world. Over 3 million are in print. Or they can go to my website, donbendell.com.
Don, thank you so much. Stay tuned. You're going to enjoy this one.